Hello, this is Ralph Bivins with the Ralph Bivins Project, and everybody has to pay them. You're going to have to face it sooner or later. So, um, we're going to talk about property tax, which, if you own property, even if you rent property, it impacts your life. And we're really lucky today to have Hal Gordon, who's with HoustonPropertyTaxLawyer.com. And he knows a lot about property tax, what to do if the Harris County Appraisal District does something that you don't like, and you can appeal it, but what do you do next? And we're really lucky to have Hal here today. And Hal, uh, what about tell us about the deadline that's approaching. People need to get prepared pretty soon if you've got for taxes, right? Or is it too late? Is a horse already out of the barn?
No, it's not too late. The deadline to file is May 15th. And one thing I want to suggest before I forget is if you're filing a protest by yourself or on your own, make sure to protest because your property is overvalued more than fair market value. And also check the box that says that your property is not equally and uniformly appraised. There's two methods to reduce your valuation. And in a large commercial property, it is the equal and uniform appraisal method is a giant stick to use on behalf of the taxpayer. So make sure to check both boxes. Your property is not fair market value, nor is it equally and uniformly appraised.
Equally and uniformly appraised, and that would give you two avenues to protest and perhaps get some fair treatment from the Harris County Appraisal District. And I know they want to have things correct. You would hope, and a lot of times they do, but sometimes they make mistakes, and that can cost you a lot of money on your tax bill. Okay. The other thought is right now, we've just had COVID and everything. I don't know how that's impacting the process with the appraisal review boards, and people try to do it themselves or do their own homes or whatever. A lot of times they would go to the HCAT offices and have a review. How's it all the work? COVID and mask and all that stuff. What's the state of affairs on that right now?
At the Harris County Appraisal District, if you want an in-person meeting or appraisal review board hearing in person, you can request it and you can get it. If you want to do it virtually, you can do it virtually. Of course, when you go into the premises, they will take your temperature and make sure you wear a mask and keep everybody socially distant. But they're moving full speed ahead, and I'll give them credit. Last year, even in the worst part of the pandemic, everything moved pretty smoothly.
Really? Well, that's good. That is great. The disruption's been crazy. It's been crazy. And one thing that had crossed my mind recently, we were talking about, renters, and a lot of our viewers are real estate investors, and they own property, they collect rent. That's how they make their investments work. And certainly with apartments and residential investment, there's been moratoriums on evictions and things, and so I can understand their viewpoint. A lot of people have lost their jobs and stuff, but it was unfortunate all the way around. And I guess at some point, the landlords would say, "Hey, getting some rent would come in pretty handy right now." But it hadn't, in a lot of cases, gone on for several months. Is HCAD taking that into account when they put a value on your rental property? The fact that you hadn't been able to collect rents lately?
Well, let's talk about a shopping center or office building. And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Residential might be a little different if it's just one property uh, that you're renting, just a home that you're renting. We can talk about that. But yes, in fact, HCAD does a survey of property values and trends for the year. And if anybody wants to get a copy of that, they probably can through calling HCAD. Restaurants and hotels, the hospitality industry got hit hard, and HCAD recognizes that. And it looks like they're seeing values reduced by 10% in that segment. Don't quote me on the exact numbers, but around 10%, maybe a little higher in the hospitality industry, maybe 6% in retail. But interestingly, home sales have been strong. And so don't be surprised if you don't get any reduction in the value from your home from last year. In fact, you could probably, don't be surprised if you get an increase from last year. The residential market has stayed strong, and so no luck there.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, these retailers, some of these shopping centers, man, they've all the number of tenants that have filed bankruptcy now. You had Pier One, Palais Royal, on and on, and even J.C. Penney filed. That's put a lot of pressure on guys that own shopping centers. And you know that the Pearland Town Center is owned by CBL Properties, a big REIT, and with 100 malls and stuff, and they had to take a chapter. But the vacancy is everywhere, and so I'm glad that HCAD is adjusting that to reality of those properties may not be what they used to be.
So, Ralph, keep in mind that the property value for the 2021 property taxes is established on January 1, 2021. So
January 1, 2021.
Yes. So and that they will look at the figures from January 1st through of 2020 through December 31 of 2020. So and for a retail property, they're going to be looking at net operating income. And the shopping center owners who have reduced income are for 2000 the year 2020 are going to have less net operating income, and that's going to end up being reduced values for 2021. So the good news is, or the bad news is, they didn't get any rent. The good news is they should expect a reduced valuation for 2021.
Yeah, and we know that the devastation in the hotel market's been crazy, but last week I went to a ribbon cutting of a new 14-story hotel on 610 there, Westheimer, and the guy there owns probably 20 properties, I think, hotel properties. Said, hey, bookings are coming back at the end of the year. By mid-year, vaccinations are happening and things look better, and that's good for everybody. What about office buildings? Hal, have you detected any trends there?
I believe that office building values will also be down in 2021. In fact, I believe the HCAD anticipates they'll be down in 2021 also. Not enough. I promise you, it's not going to be enough, and you need to fight it. But HCAD does recognize that the office buildings have suffered, and again, with the net operating income, it'll help all landlords. With it being lower, it will help.
I know that sometimes people appraise or appeal their property taxes, and you really can't come to an agreement with the appraisal review board, and so. And I know that sometimes, and it's things escalate to a level you say this isn't going to work. We need to file suit. Can you explain a little bit about that legal process when it gets to the point that you file a lawsuit?
I'll be glad to, Ralph. So you have to exhaust your administrative remedies before you can file a lawsuit, which means you've got to appear at an appraisal review board hearing, present your evidence, and have them make a decision on what you owe or what the fair value is. Okay, you've got to do that. If you don't, you're going to lose your right to appeal to district court. So let's assume. Well, and first of all, Ralph, let me just say this. I urge every property owner to get in the fight. There's all kinds of opportunities. You can go meet with HCAD informally. And I recommend that you do that, because when you meet informally with an appraiser, you can sit across and speak to him or her person to person. You can find out what evidence HCAD is relying on to value your property. And you can challenge that evidence. If they're saying it's a home, 2 doors down, you know that home. You can fight with them. You can tell them that, and you will be better armed to meet with the appraisal review board. So meet with the appraiser, find out what they've got, show them what you've got, and if you can't reach an agreement at that informal level, appeal to the appraisal review board. That is a 3-member citizen panel, supposed to be unbiased. I'll reserve judgment on that, but it's supposed to be unbiased, and you present your evidence and you do the best you can. I don't do residential property protest, but and one reason I don't is because HCAD has access to the multiple listing service, and they know they've got good evidence of what comparable homes in your area is selling for. And it makes it hard to refute. If you've got a house close by that's the same age, same square footage, same builder, and it's sold for much higher than you think that your value is, you got a problem. But you also might know that come with, if you need a new roof, bring a bid for a roof. If you need stucco repair, bring a bid for a stucco repair. That kind of evidence works. And if you actually got the stucco repair done, show the paid bill. So show that if there's deferred maintenance that's due, if you've got foundation issues, you can get reductions for that. If you're adjacent to a freeway and you can hear the sound of 610 roaring past you, take a recording. Whatever you can to devalue the property, take it with you. Anyway, you're going to go eventually to the appraisal review board, and it's informal. An appraiser from HCAD will be there. 3 members of the city of Houston will be there also to listen to both sides and make a judgment. And that is, don't expect too much from the appraisal review board. I have not been that lucky historically, and I've been doing this for 40 years with appraisal review boards. But you will leave that day with a determination of your value, and they will send you by certified mail a notice of what the board decided. And the day you receive that, the clock starts ticking. So make a note of when you receive that certified mail letter, because you've got 60 days to file a lawsuit. If you're going to file a lawsuit, they'll also send you some information with that notice of other opportunities. You with certain exceptions, you can go to binding arbitration or appear before a state office of administrative hearings. And sometimes those make sense. if you're going to get an attorney involved, it gets expensive. I mean, even if you file even if you're on a contingency fee basis, it's expensive in terms of time you have to spend dealing with the lawsuit and responding to discovery. And hiring an expert witness, but those are for bigger properties, higher value properties. And you just got to file that lawsuit within 60 days and do your lawyer a favor, make sure and check off equal and uniform and fair market value protest. And before another thing I don't want to forget, Ralph, is that you can access the information that HCAT is using to value their property. That you can look at it before the hearing, and you can go to a website and get that. Look at it. Make sure that the information is correct. If it says that your house is 2,500 square feet, but you have plans that says it's 2,300 square feet, that's good evidence. If it says that you have 4 bedrooms and you only got 3, show that to them. That's good evidence. Look at their what they're going to rely on. And a lot of times they will say, well, maybe they'll say that your property is an A property. Well, maybe you know something that would suggest that it's not an A property. It's a B property. If you go from A to B, you're going to get an automatic reduction in valuation. So take a look at their evidence, scrutinize it, and they will also have in that evidence package that they're going to use what they consider to be the equal and uniform value. Now, they'll tell you what it is, but you might be surprised, Ralph, but almost 100% of the time, that equal and uniform value is awfully close to what they say is a fair market value.
That sounds like a conspiracy or something.
I'm not going to use that word.
You didn't say that. You didn't say that. I didn't either. I didn't want them coming after me.
It's worth looking at for a residential property, and you could probably call HCAT and say, where is that? It's usually like on the first page of the evidence package. But it's not easy to determine what equal and uniform value is. You really have to hire an expert, and that gets expensive. So it's got to be a high value property before it really makes sense to have an equal and uniform report prepared by an expert witness.
And you would, if you're a commercial property owner with a lot at stake, you would get an appraiser, and you would get a full appraisal of the thing and look over your rent rolls or whatever he would do.
They request that information. They survey comparable properties, and they make sure that your property is being treated the same way as a comparable property may be on the other side of town. So, but they try to get as comparable as properties as possible, as close to you as possible. It's not always that easy. And a lot of times there's really no good comparable sales for commercial properties, and they're not reported. They're not reported sales. There's no multiple listing services for commercial properties, so it makes it easier to protest a commercial property. If you're with net operating income, if that works to your favor. If not, you go to equal and uniform.
Yeah, I've always, that's the thing about Texas. In some states, they disclose the cost or the price of sales price for commercial property. And, being here, working so long and as a journalist covering real estate in Texas, sometimes that's been a frustration. A major office tower sells downtown. I think, God, I have to kind of talk to my sources and stuff to figure out, hey, what was the sales price and where is it pretty close, instead of having it revealed. But this is one of the few states that does that protection. I don't know why. I don't know if it's why the state legislature decided that's a wise thing. But by the way, I forgot to tell everybody, if your first time you've seen this, Uh, I operate a news organization called RealtyNewsReport.com, and we carry it's live. It's on the internet, and you can. It's a free press. There's no paywall. You can go anytime. I believe in free press, and you go there. Look at we have commercial, residential, even a lot of stuff about what's happening in Houston, what's happening in the Texas Triangle, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, and Houston, but also some national things, and a lot of coverage focused here on the greater Houston area too. So you can always do that, and hope you do.
Ralph, I'm going to give you a plug too, because I was born in Houston, and you have a book out that I read that I really enjoyed, telling some of the history of some of the iconic Houston buildings and developers. It's a neat little book, and I enjoyed reading it.
It's Houston 2020, America's Boomtown. You available on Amazon, guys, if you want to pick it up. Thanks, Hal. I'm glad you enjoyed the book.
I did.
The one thing I was thinking, and we mentioned in the book, we talked a little bit about the devastation from Hurricane Harvey in August of 2017. A lot of people got tons of water in their houses and office properties, everything. And it also was a little bit unique because it happened in a lot of areas that were fairly affluent. Out by Memorial, Mayor White, former Mayor White, great guy. He got water in his house big time. And other areas, Meyerland, Bel Air, Memorial, Kingwood, they all got hit pretty hard, and a bunch of others, but just about everybody got something. But in terms of recovery from that, have values kind of did you see from HCAT's perspective? Do you have any sense of if they've realized that Houston real estate has recovered from that, or has Houston real estate fully recovered from the big hurricane and the damage?
I would say that it has mostly recovered, but if you're a property owner and you haven't recovered, take pictures. If on January 1, 2021, your property has still not been restored because of the storm or for any reason, take a picture and be prepared. On the back of it, put picture taken, January 8th, 2021, or whenever you have the picture taken, and show it to HCAT, because that is the critical date. What was the status of your property on January 1st of 2021? And that's the basis for the valuation. Right. Another thing that I want to mention to your viewers is this doesn't have to do with valuation, but ultimately you're going to get taxed on your valuation. And I suggest that you take a hard look at your tax bill. I mean, whether you get it yourself or whether it goes through a mortgage company, your mortgage company will send it to you. But I've had some problems with the tax assessor collector. One that ended up in the Texas Supreme Court, and with the Harris County tax assessor collector. And recently, a case I won on behalf of a client, and they were entitled to a refund of overpaid taxes. And the Harris County tax assessor collector did not send them the correct amount of the refund. I mean, like $20,000 off.
Oh,
so, and it's not pretty to have to try to figure out how to explain that to the Harris County tax assessor collector, especially during COVID with limited employment there. But we worked through it, and my client got his check a couple of weeks ago. So
that's ridiculous.
So don't just forget about your property taxes after you've the value's been established. make sure that the value that was agreed upon is on your tax bill. If you agreed to sell, if it's a $500,000 property and you agreed to settle it for 400, make sure that that is on the tax bill. So check out your tax bill. Don't pay too much.
What could you tell us? I know you may not want to name names, but tell us a little bit more about the case you took to the Supreme Court.
Well, it was a fascinating case, fascinating. And it really impacted the entire state of Texas and the way tax assessor collectors throughout the state have done business for over 10 years. And I was surprised to find out that big office building settled for a great price because of the equal and uniform report, among other things. And my client was entitled to a big refund. And they ended up charging my client an extra $100,000 because they said that they had underpaid the deposit that they were supposed to make. Well, I disagreed with them forcefully, got nowhere, sued, won in the trial court. It was so black and white to me, won in the trial court, which was not easy since it was a state district judge basically telling his counterpart down the street at the Harris County tax assessor collector, who probably signs his bill, his check, you did that wrong. And he did. He had the guts to do that. And we went to the Court of Civil Appeals, and the Court of Civil Appeals rejected the case, saying that the Harris County tax assessor collector had governmental immunity and could not be sued on that event. Now, that was not an issue that was raised at the trial court. I don't think it was properly adjudicated ultimately, but the Supreme Court did not disturb the ruling. And, I think personally, this is my opinion, that if they had not have found some reason to reject the court's decision, the impact, it would have opened up a Pandora's box of people who in the past may have been improperly charged this penalty as well. So conveniently or not, my client had to suffer the consequences. Interestingly, the next year, the Texas legislature changed the statute to make it exactly clear as I had suggested in my lawsuit. Changed the law to make it more clear that my interpretation was correct. I'm not naming any names though.
Maybe you should run for the legislature, man.
Well, that's the other thing, Ralph. You were mentioning that maybe the legislature should look at the issue of publishing commercial sales. That's not uncommon for legislation to be presented to the legislature, suggesting that commercial sales be public knowledge. It has not passed yet.
That's interesting. I guess there are people that the way it is right now works for them, and there's not enough hue and cry out there from the other side. A lot of people don't know. It'd be great. I mean, when you're making an offer on a house, every citizen, every homeowner would be vitally interested in, what did the house sell for before? What did the house next door sell for last week? Things like that would really be helpful for consumers and anybody that buys real estate for that matter.
Yeah. So we'll see what the legislature does this year. It's always interesting.
Well, I forgot. Hal went to the University of Texas and the University of Texas Law School. We're right down the street from the Supreme Court, I guess.
It was close by.
What else we need to know? What else we need to talk about today about HCAD and appraisals. What have I failed to mention?
Well, I'll tell you something. I respect HCAD. I mean, they've got a big job to do. It's almost 2 million parcels of property, and it's the biggest appraisal district in the state. And honestly, I think they do a fairly decent job of coming to what is a fair value. They do a decent job, but property owners know their property better than HCAD does. And if you come forward with some good evidence, you'll be able to get the value down. But they do a good job. And believe me, when you go to an appraisal review board hearing, your property will be shown up on a big screen, so you can see your property right there. And if you talk about the house next door, they can show you the house next door, and they're prepared. It's changed a lot, Ralph. 15, 20 years ago, it was the values were lower. I mean, they didn't have the pressure to keep the values high, and now they do. I mean, for miscellaneous reasons, but and it's honestly, they should do it at fair market value, and like they're obligated to do. And they do a decent job at getting to that number, and there are exceptions. I rarely do I find a property that is 100% overvalued. I mean, I'm not even sure that's ever happened. That just doesn't happen that much.
Not that it's rare occurrence if it ever happened.
Yeah, but and it's also rare that a property is significantly undervalued. Property owners, make sure that what you're getting appraised for is the right property, right square footage, right the correct grade of property. If it's a B property and not an A property, tell them why. And nobody knows your property better than you. Photographic evidence is always good. I don't know, Ralph.
Yeah, well, that's hey, and properties going from A to B. That's happening, whether it's showed up on the books yet or not, but prices are going down, and something's going to happen with this, especially in the office projects with A, B, and C. I guess there are some D's, but I think there's more shakeout there to come and come to those classifications. It's not through yet.
I agree. Office buildings are that's a tough market right now.
All right. Hal Gordon, HoustonPropertyTaxLawyer.com. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. And we will, I know you do a lot of commercial work, but you have a lot of knowledge about this issue, and we appreciate you sharing it with us.
It was my pleasure, Ralph. Thanks for asking me.